Verb tenses in adverb clauses. Even though meaning and context are important factors in the use of verb tenses, there are certain tense patterns which are commonly used with adverb conjunctions. We're going to look at some of these patterns here. Pattern 1. Simple future in the main clause and simple present in the adverb clause. For example, she'll find out about the mistake when she arrives. Or she'll find out about the mistake once she arrives. Or she'll find out about the mistake if she arrives. To emphasize the completion of an action or event, a perfect tense could be used on either side of the conjunction. So, it is possible to have a new pattern in which we have simple future in the main clause and present perfect in the adverb clause. For example, you can leave as soon as you've finished the report. Another pattern would be a future perfect in the main clause and a simple present in the adverb clause. He'll have signed the letter by the time you call. Common conjunctions used in this pattern are by the time, when, and before. Also notice it is not possible to have a perfect tense in both clauses. Pattern 2. In this pattern, we have a past perfect in the main clause and a simple past in the adverb clause. In this pattern, the action or event in the main clause is completed before the one in the adverb clause. For example, Cynthia had graduated before she found a job. Although I had studied hard for the exam, I didn't do well. Jill was very happy because Jack had asked her to marry him. Pattern 3. Simple past in the main clause and past perfect in the adverb clause. Like the previous pattern, the action or event in the adverb clause, past perfect, is completed before the one in the main clause, simple past. For example, Freddie didn't start the lesson until all the students had arrived in class. Please notice the use of past perfect in patterns 2 and 3 with conjunctions before and after is optional, as they clearly indicate the order of the events. For example, she had practiced for years before she could play the violin, which could be expressed as follows. She practiced for years before she could play the violin. Or, after his wife had left him, Jeff was depressed, which could be expressed as follows. After his wife left him, Jeff was depressed. Pattern 4. Past continuous in the main clause and simple past in the adverb clause. When is the conjunction used in this pattern? For example, I was finishing my work when my boss asked me to stay for a few more hours. Pattern 5. Simple past in the main clause and past continuous in the adverb clause. When, while, and as are the conjunctions usually used in this pattern. For example, while they were driving along the winding road, the engine suddenly stopped. In this sentence, it is possible to use as or when instead of while. Notice in patterns 4 and 5, simple past expresses an action or event which happens in the context described by past continuous. To show two actions happen at the same time side by side, we use past continuous in both clauses, connected by conjunction while or as. For example, I was doing the windows while she was cooking. Or, I was doing the windows as she was cooking. Pattern 6. In present or future sentences, modals will, can, or may could be used with so that, in order that, and in the hope that. In past sentences, we use would, could, or might instead. For example, get a map so that we can plan where we're going. She lowered her voice in order that no one would hear. With lest and for fear that, we use either should or the base form of the verb. For example, he listened to music on his headphones lest he should disturb anyone. Or, he listened to music on his headphones, lest he disturb anyone. There are several other verb tense patterns used in adverb clauses like those in conditional sentences. They are all, however, beyond the scope of this course. For a more complete discussion of verb tenses, please refer to our other courses. Reduction of adverb clauses. Reduction is a process through which a clause is shortened and reduced to a phrase or even occasionally a single word. There are two main ways to reduce adverb clauses. In the first method, we have the same subject in both the main clause and the adverb clause. In these cases, in order to reduce the adverb clause, first we omit the subject in the adverb clause, and then we look at the verb. If the verb is a be form, you can omit it. If not, you turn the verb, whatever it is, into the ing form. For example, she fell asleep while she was watching TV. As you can see in this sentence, in both clauses we have she, the same subject. So in order to reduce this adverb clause, we omit she, the subject in the adverb clause, and then when you look at the verb, you have was watching, you have the be form was. You also omit that. So the complete sentence, she fell asleep while she was watching TV, is reduced thus: she fell asleep while watching TV. Now let's look at another example. Although he felt terribly sick, George went to the meeting. As you can see, in both clauses we have the same subject. In the adverb clause you have he, and in the main clause you have George, referring to the same person. So going through the process of reduction, we omit he, the subject, in the adverb clause, and then we look at the verb. The verb is felt. It is not a be form, but it is possible to turn it into the ing form. So the complete sentence, although he felt terribly sick, George went to the meeting, is reduced thus: although feeling terribly sick, George went to the meeting. In this kind of reduction, if the conjunction expresses time or reason and result, we can often omit the conjunction to. For example, the athlete was extremely tired after he had finished the competition. Well, in this sentence we have athlete and he, the same subject, in both clauses. In the adverb clause we have had finished. There is no be form, so we need a verb ing form here. And you have the conjunction after, signifying time. So it is possible to have a reduction in two different ways. It is possible to keep the conjunction. Then you would have the athlete was extremely tired after having finished the competition. But because the conjunction signifies time, it is possible to omit the conjunction as well. Then you would have the athlete was extremely tired having finished the competition. In the second method, to reduce adverb clauses, you don't have the same subject in the main clause and in the adverb clause. The subjects are different. Still, it is possible to have reduction. In this method, in order to achieve reduction, you omit the conjunction in the adverb clause, and then you turn the verb into the ing form, even if it is a be form. For example, after night had fallen, we set out for the next town. As you can see, we have different subjects here in both clauses. In the adverb clause, you have night, and in the main clause, we have we. Now, in order to reduce this, we have to omit the conjunction, in this case after, and then turn the verb in the adverb clause had fallen into verb ing form. So the reduced clause would be, night having fallen, we set out for the next town. Let's look at another example. They'll go to Niagara Falls if weather permits. Again, as you can see, we have different subjects in both clauses. In the main clause you have they, and in the adverb clause you have whether. In order to achieve reduction here, we have to omit conjunction if and turn the verb in the adverb clause permits into the verb ing form. Thus, the reduced clause would be, they'll go to Niagara Falls, weather permitting. There's another method of reduction worth mentioning, even if it is not applicable to all adverb clauses. In this method, it is possible to reduce adverb clauses with the conjunctions so that or in order that. It is possible to reduce these clauses if you have the same subject in both clauses, both in the main clause and in the adverb clause. In order to reduce such clauses, first we omit the subject in the adverb clause. We turn the adverb clause verb into the base form, that is the form without any tense, and then we use so as to or in order to for connection instead of so that and in order that. For example, Italo is planning to go to Canada so that he can study at the University of Toronto. Now in this sentence, Italo in the main clause and he in the adverb clause refer to the same person. So in order to reduce the adverb clause, we can omit he, the subject in the adverb clause, use so as to instead of so that, and use the base form of the verb study. The reduced adverb clause would be, Italo is planning to go to Canada so as to study at the University of Toronto. Let's look at another example. In order that I will earn more money, I'm looking for a second job. Again, we have the same subject in both clauses, I. To reduce this adverb clause, we should use in order to instead of in order that, omit the subject in the adverb clause, in this case I, and use the base form of the verb earn. The reduced adverb clause would be, in order to earn more money, I'm looking for a second job.
Did you enjoy it? Then subscribe, like, comment and share. Thanks for joining us.